talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
It's the last day of February of 2023. Can you believe that? Hello, everybody, coming from Jonesboro, Arkansas, where my story began. It's 68 degrees, and we're ready to start talking Memphis Wrestling today. Produced by Adam Dunn. I'm Randy Hills, and we're right along set side here in the studio ready to go with a big show. And we'll check to see who's saying hello to us. And Ahmad is saying good evening from Memphis, Tennessee. Panetta PJ is saying hello from over the pond and saying hello to everybody. The Jimbo Man from Phoenix, Arizona. And my best buddy, brother from another mother, everything you can say, my longtime pal, someone that I can't remember the last day that I hadn't heard from him. It's been a while. Randy West, who of course is the best. Sorry Adam, who's producing this show, and I love Adam to death. He saves me, but Randy West, man, what a career he's had and producing professional wrestling television. Just a career of doing great at anything he did. He did the construction business after the wrestling business and successful there. He retired from there. He still likes good old Memphis wrestling, and he's always here to watch this show and see what's going on and to keep me out of trouble. Jerry Allen, we appreciate you saying hello. Appreciate it very much. And we appreciate David Linville in the house. Everybody's pretty talkative today. Mike is here. And again, Jerry Allen is from Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. A lot of great things going on. My buddy, Liza Johnson, Mr. Johnson is from the land down under in Australia, and we appreciate that very much. I like people from the land down under. Bill Superstar Dundee, one of my best friends for a long time. My buddy Rod is in the house. Rod, what is going on? Hope you're feeling good. Hope everything is great. Hope everything is peachy to everybody. I want to say yesterday's Power Pro Wrestling watch along, very exciting. And the feedback we got from this audience, or the audience yesterday, was just great. A lot of comments, a lot of questions, a lot of feedback, and we appreciate that very much. All right, Memphis is in the house. I thought at first reading that, because I don't see the screen real good, but I thought it said Glenn Campbell, and I thought he did, but it's not Glenn Campbell, it's Greg Campbell, and apparently he's in Memphis, Tennessee. Hey, check out my YouTube page. That's Adam Swidden. That's on the screen, and you can get it at youtube.com/, at Randy Hills if you subscribe to that and help my numbers out. Obviously, most of you are watching on Facebook. Appreciate that. On Twitter at RB Hills and on Twitch at the Randy Hills channel. I'm all over the place because it's been my mission, and it always will be my mission till I breathe no longer, is to keep the legacy of Memphis Wrestling alive, to tell those stories, whether it's Classic Studio Channel 13 Wrestling, CWA Wrestling Channel 5, USWA Wrestling, or then, of course, Power Pro Wrestling, keeping it going. The schedule for today for the show, we have a very interesting show. We have some wrestling talk, not just Memphis wrestling talk. We have a rant or two coming up, and Lester Seals from Smyrna, Tennessee is in the house. And Mike says, amazing show last night. I thought it was very good as well. And we have people really coming in. As our Australia guy, Mr. Johnson, said, Bill Superstar Dundee, the land down under. He's a legend himself. And of course, he is the superstar. I love it that everybody's active today, and I'll tell you what's going to go on the show today. Hey, it's been a warm day. It got up to 75 degrees in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's a beautiful day, absolutely beautiful. How was the weather, you guys? Whether it's Australia, whether it's Memphis, whether it's Maysville, Kentucky, whether it's over the pond. You guys tell us what your weather is there. As again, I will say currently in Jonesboro, it's 68 degrees, 68 degrees. And my fellow, not classmate, because he did it a few years before I did, but my real good friend, Frank Seaton, his mother taught me in high school. And she doesn't live that far from me and doing great the last I heard. As David Linville says, Bill Dundee is amazing, underrated wrestler. He's took on the best ever, and I don't think he's underrated. I think pretty much when you talk about Memphis wrestling, Waller and Dundee will be at the top of the list. If you go back farther, Jackie Porter, you go back farther, Sputnik Monroe and Billy Wicks. I don't think in Memphis, in the Memphis wrestling community, I don't think Bill Dundee is underrated at all. Absolutely at all. As Mike says, Dundee is his very favorite wrestler of all time. And Mr. Johnson from the land down under said, finish watching the first USWA show after WCWA and UWA World Class Texas Wrestling on Sabodi Wrestling Library yesterday, and look forward to more. And underappreciated. Again, with Memphis wrestling fans, I disagree with that. Who doesn't appreciate the superstar? 5'7", 207 pounds, the toughest son of a bitch that ever came down the pipe. We're waiting for Michael St. John. We'll take a look at Memphis Wrestling 1986, 1987. Very interesting video. We'll show you the TV debut of Jeff Jarrett in 1986. We will show you some interesting stuff in 86, including the most heated angle ever. I believe this is a Randy West idea, and we'll show that later in the show. Then we will skip into 1987, but we'll finish 86 showing you very early Bam Bam Bigelow. Then in 1987, we'll talk about the feud between Jerry Lawler, Austin Idol, and Tommy Rich. And if we have time for it, and I'm not making any promises, but if we have time for it, I promise you what we'll do, we will show Jeff Jarrett's first World Championship match. It was for the AWA World Heavyweight Championship. He challenged Nick Bonwinkle, 20-minute match. Jeff, less than a year. Less than a year, or maybe just a little bit over a year. I'll have the date when we get to our notes. And that's just a fantastic match. And it's a wrestling clinic by Nick. Jeff Jarrett was there every bit of the way, and it was just great. I mean, this is a clinic in professional wrestling for a veteran to go with the young guy in a main event type of match and go after it, man. They go after it. And Jeff was there for every move, every spot. There was no doubt about it. He was just great as he could be. As Terry has said, he wants to see that. He says hello to us today and hello to you. And David is trying to be argumentative today, I think. What he's saying is as good as fun about. Yes, we know that. Absolutely. We know that. You don't have to tell us that because there's nobody on this page. And if there's anybody watching this show that don't agree with David and don't agree with me, you shouldn't be watching Memphis Wrestling. Or no, 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 you should be watching Memphis Wrestling. You should be, because if you don't know how great Bill Dundee was, if you watch this show every single Tuesday, you'll find out. There is no doubt about it. Now, this is what you call a stretch. I feel half naked almost because Adam and I, now last week he had to go rescue his wife in Texas. Absolutely. Today he's been on the screen in the profile picture, and I was talking to the screen. He wasn't talking to me. We usually have a production meeting before the show, and I don't know why we didn't have a production meeting before the show. He wouldn't text me back. He wouldn't come on the screen and talk to me. He's not coming on the screen now. He doesn't have his camera set up, but he can talk to me. I don't even know. It might be somebody that's kidnapped Adam Dunn. I'm worried. I need visual proof that he's alive. I cannot believe it. Are you alive there? And Terry says he's a King fan, and so am I. Hey, how about my buddy from Papa Bluff, Missouri, Cade on that thread? Bill Dundee is a legend for sure, man. I guess I preached that to you back in the day at Sonic on Westwood in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Those were the days. Loved my man Tatum. Loved his brother Alexis. Fantastic. Frank Seaton says Dundee was a great wrestler, and as a booker, probably saved Bill Watts' promotion in Mid South Wrestling. He certainly set records. I don't know if it was bad enough to save it. I mean, I don't know if it got that down that low. Certainly, after Bill left, then there was no saving to it. No saving to it. And it was more just the way the wrestling world, the wrestling business has changed. Adam was abducted by alien or in a badass mood, one or the other. Al Tuttle, Al, hadn't heard from you today. I want to know, Al, how are you feeling? See, no, I know for sure he's not a alien. Don't have Adam. He's putting these comments up here. He's for sure here. He's for sure here. So he's not dead. He's not dead. Al says hello to us, and let's see. Terry Donahue grew up in the Crockett area, another great territory. Mr. Johnson says, Bill Dundee still wrestle from time to time, I believe still. No, I don't think he has wrestled that I know of one time since the start of the pandemic. Hello, Al is Ahmad, I think, is saying hello. Everybody is, and Brooke is in the house. Everybody's in the house. I will tell you that we'll talk about 86 and 87. Also, what we will do is, and I'm excited about this because sometimes I just like talking about current wrestling. I know some of you don't, but I can do a pretty entertaining rant on this. Did a little bit on the radio the other day, did a little bit on the Monday show. We have graphics. There's a big generic graphic, Adam, and this is one of the things that I would have told you in the production meeting. There's a Wrestling Observer generic graphic and want to show that right now. Don't want to show the one that's the Wrestler of the Year. The Wrestling Observer is a long time insider wrestling publication starting in 1982. Every year they put out the Wrestling Observer Year in Awards. And I thought for fun, we would analyze that, look at that, and we certainly will look at a lot of words, and I'll do a rant or a rave on that. It won't be much of a raven, some of this. And I'm just interested. Who watching this show has ever read the Wrestling Observer one time? Who has? And I'm interested in who is a regular reader of the Wrestling Observer. Used to, we couldn't have it in our bags in the dressing room because that was a firing offense. Absolute fire in the fence. I can tell you, I can give you a story. Everybody yesterday likes to hear a story. I love to tell stories. I think you guys like for me to tell stories. Everybody wants to hear a story. This is a stretch because I'm waiting for Michael St. John. If Adam could text Michael and see the status of Michael St. John, as I will know where to go in this show. What did I say I was going to talk about? Oh, I want to tell you the first time that I saw the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Al Tuttle is saying story time with our ace. My buddy Scott Hart sent me some pretty stuff he's working on. Can't wait, can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. Great question, and I don't know the question. I didn't see the question. Let's see. What does it say? Kate, man, oh man, you preach, preach, preach. That went away since I was reading it, so I don't know what Kadam said, but now David says didn't know what WCW thing about making him Sir William. That was a Bill Dundee idea because he was in the booking department. They were bringing in, and they needed somebody for William Dundee. No, that would be double paid for him. Shane, my man, why did Jerry Lawler always come up short after going after the world title against Nick Bockwinkel? Uh, it was because Vern Gagne in the Bockwinkel era wouldn't pull the plug and agreed to do it. Simple as that. It was simple as that for uh, sure. My last match was in Jonesboro probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I teamed with Derek King against Brandon Baxter and the current Arkansas State, and at the time it was going to be his first season, head basketball coach at Arkansas State University, Mike Bellato. Hopefully, we'll get word from Michael St. John here. Jeremy Gibson, story time with Randy Haslin. Let me tell you the story time. Let me tell you the story time. The first time I saw a Wrestling Observer. Back in the days, there was a Wrestling Fans International Association. Wrestling Fans International Association. There was a fan group that met different places in the country several different times. They do their annual convention in Memphis. And we even shot angles incorporated into our TV. Hey, my buddy Shane Russell answers my question. I get the Observer every week. Don't read it all the time. And Shane, I would guess that your dad got it as well, and Dave continues to send it to you. And I think that is good, my buddy. Terry Donahue is saying about Mike Jackson still going strong, and I'm trying to catch up with everybody, but I got to tell my story. Again, I'm stretching a little bit, but I'm trying to make it entertaining stretching. Wrestling Observer, WFIA, Wrestling Fans International Association Convention. I was chosen to be the MC, the head MC. The reason they didn't get Lance Russell is he was getting the Wrestling Announcer of the Year award, so he couldn't do that. He couldn't do that. He couldn't be the MC and then get an award. They didn't want to do that, so I did it. But people had tables set up all over the place, had them from one side to the other. Well, on one table was this probably 1984, a Wrestling Observer newsletter. I picked it up and I couldn't believe it. The era of kayfabe, the era that we protected the business, the era that we would kill for the protection of our business. I mean, it was that serious, absolutely serious. So I was the first one that saw that. I saw that, and I said to somebody, and I don't know who I said it to. It might have been Jerry Jarrett, might have been Eddie Marlin. I don't know who it was. Not Jeff Jarrett. He wasn't in the business yet. It was somebody, and I said, "This son of a gun, Dave Meltzer exposing the business, telling wrestlers real names and doing this and doing that, and telling." Oh, some companies because they didn't know what finishes were advanced here. I mean, we didn't tell wrestlers to that night. Sometimes 5 minutes before they went into the ring, especially if Jerry Lawler was booking. That's just the way he did it. But anyway, so I knocked that Meltzer and all that. The very next Wrestling Observer, somebody had it, and they said a announcer, the MC of the WFIA, this is Meltzer quoting what I said that he would said Randy Hills with the Memphis office and announcer hopes I die, and then LOL. I think that was before LOL happened. We just took protection of kayfabe very, very, very seriously. And Terry is saying, you know, we all thought people exposing the business would kill the business, but obviously it's not like it used to be. But professional wrestling had made more money for the certain promoters and the top wrestlers than ever. The revenue in the billions of the WWE. So kayfabe, who we thought would absolutely, if it was violated, if it was exposed, and now almost every wrestler, top wrestler, former promoter, everybody does inside shows like this. Absolutely everybody. But there's my story a little bit. Terry Donahue said Bill Dundee would have stomped his head if he could. Well, he could have. Bill Watts could have, but Bill Watts was one of eh, was one of Dave Meltzer's earliest sources. Bill Watts was one of the first promoters to talk to Dave Meltzer, and that's a fact. So Terry, there goes your theory. There goes your theory. Wrestler wise, Terry Funk. Wrestler wise, or wrestling business wise, Eddie Gilbert, Paul E. Heyman, uh, Jim Cornette. There is others. I have talked to Dave Meltzer. I've done a couple of interviews on his show to plug whatever I'm plugging. But at the same time, on the phone, I believe I've talked to him twice, one for sure, and he called me for help. He called me for help after Eddie Marlin, my mentor. I love Eddie Marlin. I love me some Eddie Marlin. He called me to help with the biography of Eddie. Hello, Tanner. What is Tanner doing in the house? As somebody said, this is put over Bill Watts Day. I thought Bill Watts was was brilliant. I really did. Hey, Brooks, I was young back then, and I thought the time was standing still. But knowing what I know now, I would have never missed a wrestling event at the Mid South Coliseum or wrestling shows in nearby town. And Jerry Allen doesn't like Jim Hard, and and Terry and David's talking back and forth, and I'm trying to see some of this. I already said hello to Tanner. He's in the house, doing good here, and Tanner says he's doing well dealing with some social path. Is that what he's saying right now, or if something's bad's going on with Tanner today? I am going to check my phone real quick to see if Michael St. John has said anything. He hadn't, so I think we're going to take a breath. I've been talking nonstop since this show's been on the air. As Al told us, didn't Bill Watson Waller a telegram as that went off the screen again? But yes, he did, thanking him for beating up Andy Kaufman, slapping Kaufman. Bill Watts thought it was real. He absolutely did, and I think that is that is cool. So Tanner is saying nerve pain down your leg. How old are you, Tanner? If we can ask personal questions, it is doing great with me. Who's ever asked how? Somebody asked me how's it going. Terry Hoffman asked how's it going. I am good. Let's see. Keep that up, Adam. I even enjoy Bill Watts' work in WCW. Just about WCW didn't give him enough time. He didn't evolve in the wrestling business. He didn't evolve. Um, I thought that run was not good. It'd be like me going to the WWE now or going to AEW. The business evolves. It passes you by. It passes all of it by. I would have to study it a lot. I would have to study it a lot. Still hadn't heard from Michael St. John, but I think we'll do this. I think we'll go to 1986. I think we'll show a video of Jeff Jarrett's very first Memphis TV Channel 5 from 1960 Union in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, he debuted in April. Just a week later, maybe days later, his debut match on television with Tony Falk. Tony Falk was his first opponent at the Mid-South Coliseum. They went 10 minutes to a draw, and this was a rematch on TV.
We're ready to go with our next one. We're looking forward to this, too. Tony Falk is coming in right now. His opponent today is young Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett is brand spanking new as a professional wrestler. He's got a lot of filling out. Okay, Tony, okay. Tony Falk got something on his mind, and I hope it's wrestling.
Lance Russell, you know I have been a victim of the biggest conspiracy around here. You know when I signed that contract to go in the ring with Jeff Jarrett, it said 1 fall, 20-minute time limit. When they announced the match when I was in the middle of the ring, it said 1 fall, 20-minute time limit. Yes, it did. I know what it said. I read the contract. Anyway, Lance Russell, I was going to teach this boy a wrestling lesson, just like I said I was going to. I was just putting all my fancy takedowns on him, and I was really rubbing his face in that mat. Then when I decided, you know, to really give him a beating, really pour it on, right when I was in the middle of it, they rang the bell. They said the time was up.
That's right, because it was a 1 fall, 10-minute time.
I know what the contract said.
Well, just so you know what it is today, 1 fall, 15 minutes. That's exactly what it is.
That's what I want to know. You mean this is a 1 fall, 15-minute time? What is it? Here's my friend, the superstar. Here's my friend.
If he said it was 120, Russell, it was 120. Because just like happened to him, just like happened to us, Jarrett Promotions and his old deep pockets Eddie Martin's grandfather told you to ring the bell if the kid was getting hurt, right or not?
No, he did not.
Calhoun dove down behind me and got me the referee, right?
All right, Billy. Now, we've been through that all one time.
Now you know what we're going so now, all we can say is, Tony, welcome to the club, brother. And Lance Russell is the head of it.
The Shaft Club, baby.
Is it worth 5 years, man?
Hey, all right, now, you guys. 5 years.
Maybe worth 5, and you'll go through with him, howdy.
It might be worth it for me, too.
If we decide to go out, we're taking you all the way out. Well, I'll tell you this. We ain't going to run in this match, Tony. You go in there and beat him up for 9 minutes and pin him about the 9-minute mark, okay? 15 because this punk shouldn't even be in the wrestling business.
Right, I'm going to take care of that right now,
Tony.
Please do. Will you please go to...
You see that sugar hole that he had on that black guy before? Put it on him. His eyes will start bugging and hold him and don't quit.
Thank you.
Get back to the dressing room. You're not staying out here. Get him away with that silly whip. Come on, Dutch. That's right. He's done it. Dutch, move up. Come on, Eddie. Get it. Well, they got no shoot.
Send them on, Billy and Dutch.
They're leaving. We're not going to stay out. All we was going to do was run. We got to go back so today. They can go back.
Get rid of them.
They're nervous enough without y'all sitting out here wanting to interfere. You don't want not. And wasn't you ever nervous in your first match? That's right. I was nervous in every one of them, but you're not going to be out here doing this. Well, Tony Falk can beat him without it. Let's Tony do it. Get your hand off.
Well, there they go. Thank goodness. All right. Got rid of the extra baggage that was here.
Dundee and Landell have gone, and there go Dutch Mantell, Billy Travis. Yeah, a little handshake to Jeff Jarrett up there. Tony Falk finally in the ring after all the conversation about it. And it is 1 fall, 15-minute time limit.
Here we go.
Jeff Jarrett nailed with a right fist as Falk grabs him, slams his head into the top turnbuckle. Jeff Jarrett, brand new in the wrestling business.
He's given away a lot of weight. He's given away a lot of experience in there. But this kid is a really fine athlete. Jeff is an outstanding basketball player. He goes to Aquinas in Nashville and was nominated for the Academic All-American just yesterday, Dave. Very fine honor for an outstanding young man. He's in trouble right at the moment, but I'll tell you one thing, you're not going to see him giving up on anything. He's got all heart. He showed a lot of mistakes the first time we saw him, but, brother, he showed a lot of heart.
Nice move by Jeff Jarrett. He reverses Falk into the turnbuckle and then dumps him over his back as he came out of the corner. 1 minute of action gone. Tony Falk, right fist. Jeff Jarrett back on the rope. Tony Falk using that right hand. Falk back to the rope. Climbs up on the middle one. Leaps down and plants a foot across the chest.
Falk making all the right wrestling moves. This time, to humiliate him, he dumped him out on the floor right through the ropes. But if Falk thinks he's going to turn around and walk away, I can tell you he's got another thing coming.
Oh, nice move. He got it.
Tony Falk makes one of his notorious mistakes. Jeff Jarrett is the winner.
Dundee and Landell jump Jeff Jarrett. And Falk, Gaddafi, and Pat Rose have the door blocked to prevent help from coming in from the dressing room.
They're holding the door over there so they can't get in to help Jeff out. As Dundee slams him down. Oh, you guys are so brave. They're trying to push the door in over there, Dave, to get in. Why don't the two of you get out of here? Landell going with a full Boston Crab on him. And Jeff Jarrett is just at the mercy of Dundee and Landell. Dundee off the ropes all the way to the middle of the ring. Racked him with that leg. Falk, Gaddafi, and Pat Rose still holding the door to keep help out. Here comes Joe, just what we need. Oh, look at this! LeDuc!
LeDuc went after Dundee and Landell.
Oh, I thought LeDuc was going to come in and add misery to what Jeff Jarrett has already experienced. He is out cold in the ring. And Falk trying to sneak up. Gets nailed back down. And here comes Dutch Mantell, Billy Travis. And LeDuc came in and turned it. Boy, I thought LeDuc was heading in there to do what he does best, and that's beat up on people. Much to our surprise, he nailed Dundee. He nailed Landell. And LeDuc, I cannot imagine why, with LeDuc's reputation, came in and really saved Jarrett, picks him up now. He's carrying him out the door as Eddie Marlin, Travis, and Dutch Mantell go. Good night. You know, I don't understand it. I mean, that is certainly not typical of Joe LeDuc that we know.
There you have it, Jeff Jarrett, April 1986, a weekend from his, maybe 5 days from his debut match. He gets his first TV match and his first TV win. We'll talk and show more video from 1986 in just a minute. But, man, I'm excited. I'm fired up. I need a drink of watermelon juice. Hold on. You know why I did that? Because I made, and I'm banging around now. I don't need no notes to make this introduction because I try to top myself because this guy I'm fixing to introduce that I introduce every week, then sometimes he gets maybe a little embarrassed, and when I get like over the top, But man, you tell me how many people you know that's friends of yours that's a member of the Alabama Broadcasting Hall of Fame. How many people do you know is nominated for the Tennessee Broadcasting Hall of Fame? How many people do you know did the debut video for Hulk Hogan, for Kamala, that's hosted? A very few handful of people's ever hosted studio wrestling from Memphis. This man did it. This man is my friend. He's from Alabama, where drinking was always forbidden in his southern country home, and he obeyed his mama, and he obeyed his daddy, and he obeyed his granddaddy. And Michael St. John will not be happy with me when I tell you his age. He is approaching 50 years old. He is the owner, the founder, the operator of a fantastic radio group, and you'll see that good stuff on Fun Radio and all the stuff, and he'll tell you about it. He is the star of this show. He's the one, because he had problems with the router and couldn't get on. So I talked for 27 straight minutes waiting for him to come on, and he didn't come on. So I hit that 8-minute video, and as soon as I hit that video, then he shows up in the backstage area. So then I had to just sit here watching him on the screen that you couldn't see. You still can't see it because we hadn't popped him on here. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary one and only Michael St. Freaking John. Turn the mic on, Michael. No mic.
1 2 1 2 1 2. Is that any better?
We got you now. Let's start over. You didn't get a good response to the thing. Just be quiet for a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, he is absolutely legendary. All that stuff already said. Here he is live on this program today. People, is the star of this freaking show, Michael St. Freaking John.
Oh, Randy, what am I going to do with you? Thank you. I was looking over my shoulder to see if there's somebody else was in the room. You're making all those nice comments.
Don't do that on me.
Oh, how are you doing, my friend? Good seeing you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. We did have a little router trouble, but you know, this house, we do have 2 routers, and saved the day, ran up to Brittany's room upstairs and out of the media room upstairs and swapped out the routers and got all the cables connected, and it's wireless down here in the studio, so we're good. But thank you for letting me.
Brittany mad at you now? She can't watch
Brittany's
your
still
stuff.
asleep. She's still asleep, so she doesn't know that the router's gone yet.
You snuck in her bedroom and she didn't have a clue?
The media room next to her bedroom, we have a little game room up there for her,
Right.
and that's where I got the router from. But yeah, snuck up there when she's asleep. So far so good. But thank you for letting me be here. Big week in wrestling. I mean, there's a lot of things popping, Randy, and I know we got a great big show lined up today. And I know you have gone over. I don't think you've gone over what has come down from the Wrestling Observer, and their new best of is to come out this week.
Absolutely. It was the best of 2023. I told a story before you came on. The first time I ever saw the Wrestling Observer, it was in 1984 at the Wrestling Fans International Association convention. I'm repeating myself with our audience, but you didn't hear it. I was selected to be the MC of their national convention in Memphis. They would go to Atlanta, they go to Knoxville, they go all over. They came to Memphis a few times. The reason I was selected to be the MC was one of the award winners was going to be Lance Russell. The reason Lance Russell couldn't be the MC because he's not going to introduce himself. You know, that's just not going to happen. So I was the MC, and everybody had displays up there and out there, and we saw a Wrestling Observer, and I saw a thing. I was shocked, dazed, the kayfabe, dazed that we kill over exposing the business. I saw that, and somebody overheard me saying that guy should die. And one of the wrestling fans heard that, told Dave Meltzer, and the next week in the Wrestling Observer, he said, Memphis Wrestling announcer Randy Hales and close to Eddie Marlin said I needed to die. And that's exactly what I said. That's how much has changed. So my question as we start off with this talk, just in generic terms about the Wrestling Observer, the first time you remember seeing the Wrestling Observer, and at that time, especially if it goes way back, if you heard the same thoughts, that's what I was thinking.
Absolutely, Randy. The first time I saw it, or the first time I ever was made hip of it, was the fact that one of the wrestlers had it and had it in the dressing room. And it was a kayfabe sheet or whatever they called it back then, and a dirt sheet. And I read it, and it was like, boy, I hope this stays underground, because it was part of the underground press. You know, the underground press was a big thing in World War II. It was a big thing during the Vietnam War. It was a big thing with the hippie movement in this country, and it sort of spread to different aspects, and professional wrestling was one of them. By the way, if I have to sneeze, I'll turn my mic off, but I've had allergies. Excuse me, on camera. On camera. I've had allergies today. But the first time I saw it, to be honest, Randy, I was shocked.
Uh-oh. I think we missed you.
Am I here?
We got you again. Technical problem.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I'm good. But no, the first time I saw it, it was shocking. But the boys, and then there was always things in the Observer that even the promoters would get mad about, because something got out about whatever or whoever, and it wasn't always about a finish in a match. And you know, at one time it was the underground press of wrestling, and then as time went on, it became more mainstream. I think Dave got more mainstream with it as well. And then he's always been opinionated. And I've known Dave for a long time. Have never done an interview with him, but I've known him, you know, quite some time. And I just really feel like he was sort of brash and strong-willed when he first put that sheet out. And again, it was sort of monumentally groundbreaking for that kind of thing in the wrestling business. But, you know, now I think it's, you know, like a mainstream publication. I think age has aged him, if you would, like a fine wine, maybe. I've always liked his writing style. That one thing I'll give him credit for is I've always enjoyed his writing style. But
you know,
that's a tough thing.
He does the best. He does the best tributes. I was going to say obituaries. The one that he did, and I printed out. This big stack of papers. This full length is Jerry Jarrett's full. You read the one a couple of weeks ago, not the full. It was just the day that he passed away. But this is the full thing. And
I printed that one out too and read it cover to cover. And again, you're right. He was a great eulogist, but and a great historian in that regard. But I just like the style that he presents it in, and you know, for that I admire him. I think he's been successful at what he does. I don't always agree with who he thinks is the best of the best, and I don't think you do either. But you know,
we're fixing to nail that in a minute.
But that's someone's interpretation, and I think everybody has an opinion, and that's what America, thank God, is all about.
Now, obviously, he produces still the hard copy of the Observer, plus he has his internet stuff and all that. He apparently is not a very organized person. I want Adam to put that picture up. This is his executive office. This is Dave Meltzer with the microphone and his executive. I want you to get closer to that screen so you can see it. Look at all that junk.
Looks
Now,
like his living room.
that is his living room, his executive thing, and there's stacks of papers everywhere. Now, I've never, Michael St. John, you come from a family of newspaper people. I just don't know really what a newspaper office looks like. Is that for a newspaper person, that mess he has in that room, you can get that off there. I'm tired of looking at him, Adam. Enough time we gave Dave Meltzer as a full camera there. Anyway, is that unusual, the mess he had in that room?
I've been in news. That's one thing my dad, when I was young, we'd go on vacation. We'd go to another city, and Daddy'd have to go see the newspaper. I mean, he'd be on vacation from the newspaper. He wants to go see the Pensacola News, or he wants to go see the Mobile Press Register, or he wants to go see the Dayton Daily, or the Louisville Courier Journal, or the Tennessean in Nashville. I know when I went to Vanderbilt, the first thing he wanted to go tour was the Tennessean. And that's very typical of writers in general. I mean, most writers are messy people. They're organized in their mind. They may not be organized in their facilities.
Jerry Allen is changing on me a little bit, but we got to deal with that. Jerry Allen says, Michael said, John, you got to bring back the mustache. So comments, Michael.
Well, first of all, when my wife first saw that 19 years ago and saw the pictures or the videos when I was doing wrestling and had that, she said, you had a porn stash. And
Oh.
I was like, well, but and Jerry, I appreciate that. Let me tell you the whole story about, and you like this, Randy. I don't even know if I've ever told you this story. When I first went to work for Nick Goulas in 1977, I went on TV the first week when we taped at the fairgrounds after they threw me into the fire and threw Tom Ernesto in the ring, and Tom threw me the microphone, and that was the first time. Well, the second time I was on camera, and for the whole show. And after about 2 weeks, Mr. Nick came to me and one afternoon, and we were getting ready for the Wednesday night taping, and he said, I really like what you're doing. I said, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. He said, have you ever thought about growing a mustache? Oh, man. And of all ones, they show that one. And I said,
look at Adam Dunn, man. Adam Dunn is the best, even though he's grumpy today and not saying anything to me, but at least he's producing geniusly. So I don't care if he's not talking to me. How about that picture of Michael St. John?
I love that. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the Sportatorium in Dallas. If I'm not mistaken. But he asked me, he said, have you ever thought about maybe growing a mustache or a beard? So I went with the mustache for a while. And the reason he asked me, he said, you look too young on TV. And I was like, okay. So I grew the mustache and ultimately the beard. I added the beard in 1981. And I kept it all real tight and close. My mother hated it from day one. The kids never knew me without it until I shaved it off in 1990. And actually, I shaved it off just prior to going to Dallas at the Sportatorium. Jerry had asked me to come in and do some commentary at the Sportatorium. And he said to me, he said, why don't you shave your beard and mustache, you make you look a little younger. So I knew that in that 13-year period that I'd aged a lot. So I took it off and never really put it back on. I think I may have added a mustache in the mid 90s for a couple of months or whatever, but I took it off. And that was an experiment, but I was sort of talked into it and talked out of it. And so that's the story of the facial hair on the St. John.
Man, it's 7:48 in Jonesboro. It's a 75-degree day today. Now it's dropped 62 degrees here. Supposed to get rain tomorrow afternoon. Next 2 or 3 days going to be rainy. What's the weather there in Arab, Alabama?
Well, it's almost carbon copy of what you said. Got to be 77 here today, and I was out all day, so that made it good. In fact, maybe even got a little sun while I was making rounds today. But I was a little concerned about you yesterday when all those tornadoes came through Oklahoma. And I know you're further east, of course, in Arkansas, but I know a tip of Arkansas got part of that as well. But I'm always concerned when, we're talking today's the 28th day of February, tomorrow's the 1st of March, and weather at this heat and humidity level can only mean bad things when it comes to tornadic activity, because it's going to drop and go up and down like March always does. I was actually at the doctor this morning. I've got a little bit of congestion and I've got a cough. And I went in and he gave me some cough medicine. There's an example. And
Yes.
he heard me cough. And he said, well, you and everybody else have that. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, it's not bronchial and it's not anything COVID or virus activity. He says, it's basically a sinus problem or a sinus illness from the temperatures going to the temperature inversion. One day it's 77, next day it's 40, next day it's 65, next day it's 38, and that kind of jump up and down is getting to everybody. And plus, this is, of course, the start of allergy seasons. And I've been an allergy person since the day I was born. So, with the dogwoods are in bloom here big time. And I'm sure that you're seeing that as well, Randy. And we had the buttercups, the jonquils have almost bloomed out. So pollen is starting to arise, and that blows me up too. So here you go.
All righty. Now we're going to get into, we're not going to do all the awards from the Wrestling Observer, and we need to keep it moving and not have long comments as we go through this. And I say that to myself as much as I do to Michael, but I know by some of this, I will have a rant or two about it. We're going to go to the 2022 Wrestling Observer Awards, and I'll read them. And Adam, there's graphics that when I read them and looking at my phone, if we could have that up there, and I'll tell you when to get out of each one. We'll start with the Luthez Ric Flair Award. That's the Wrestler of the Year. I'll start with number 10 and go all the way up to number 1. And the Wrestling Observer's readers apparently make those votes. Number 10, Bryan Danielson. Number 9 is Gayula, who I've never heard of. Number 8 is CM Punk. Number 7 is MJF. Number 6 is Chris Jericho. Number 5 is Syura, Syuri. I think that, I don't know who that is. Number 4 is Okada. Number 3 is Will Ospreay. Number 2 is Roman Reigns. And the Wrestler of the Year, the winner of the Luthez Ric Flair Award for Wrestler of the Year, is Jon Moxley. Real quick, and there's the graphic of Jon Moxley, and he won the award back in, I think, 2020 as well. He's the 2022 Wrestler of the Year. That's good, as we'll get Michael's feelings. My real quick thoughts is that if I would have voted in the Wrestling Observer Awards, the person I would have voted as the Wrestler of the Year would be the top guy in the most profitable wrestling company on God's green earth, Roman Reigns.
I agree 100%, Randy, 100%. We got one of the comments. Tanner commented that Paige is now known as Saraya in the AEW wrestling world. I couldn't agree more. And where you were reading that list, I'm like, okay, it's going to be number 1. It's going to be number 1. And then when it wasn't number 1, I was like, And I think that throws a shadow on the whole list, because it makes it a bogus list. You're not including the guy. And I think Roman Reigns, ever since he came back from his blood disorder, and I don't think he's ever been, looked, and wrestled better, and
talked
certainly
better everything about his game. Everything. Absolutely. I without a doubt, he's my guy. And I'll be honest with you, Randy, number 2 on that list would be MJF, because I think MJF has done more to stir up interest in the AEW than any wrestler they have. Put that graphic back up there just so I can look this phone again. Let me ask you this question. And he says the readers vote. I think the readers are either, I don't know, kind of driven on by it. These are all Dave Meltzer's favorite wrestlers. I'm not saying he rigs the contest, but basically he pushes these people every time. But I want to ask you right now, a guy that's going to be across the ring at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes, that's had a tremendous. He went in the ring at the day after SummerSlam, had hurt his, torn his pec, and he had the most gutsy thing I've ever seen. So, how can you have Will Ospreay, Okada, Chris Jericho, anybody else? Well, even CM Punk didn't wrestle half the year. Guella, uh, on that, I certainly. I mean, how can you leave? How can you leave Cody Rhodes off this list, Michael?
Personally, I don't think you can. But again, if it is true that the fans are the wrestling people that are making this vote, I've always said, if you really want to screw up your radio station, let the people decide what you play. And that's going to sound horrible to everybody watching and listening. I know that. But you're a trained professional in your industry to get it right. And if you totally, God forbid that I would listen to anybody's iPod on shuffle back in the days when iPod on shuffle was the thing, because I would go, where the heck did that come from? Where the heck did that come from? And all that. But what Jim likes, Joe doesn't like. What Joe likes, Bill doesn't like. And you can go right on through the room, and just in musical preferences. And I think wrestling preferences is the same. I also get a feeling that in that list you gave us just then, Randy, that whoever was voting on this are very young wrestling fans, much younger wrestling fans than you and I.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's crazy. Now, maybe you can clarify this, but you won't be able to because there's no clarification. I mean, there's no sense. So I just gave you the wrestler of the year, correct?
Yes,
now,
sir.
The next award that I want to get to right now, Michael, is the most outstanding wrestler of the year. And first of all, let's go back to Michael real quick. I want Michael to teach me something. I want Michael to save the day. I want Michael to give me a difference in what the wrestler of the year is compared to the most outstanding wrestler of the year. Isn't that the same thing?
You're quibbling. It is the same thing. That's just to put another category on the ballot so people will have something else to vote on. There's no rhyme or reason for that. You're absolutely correct.
We'll go through that real quick and not go much further, and we'll get into another subject, but we'll read that list. Will Ospreay is the most outstanding wrestler. He's wrestled a lot in California. Bryan Danielson is number 2. Okada, who is great in New Japan. He is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But I don't know the difference between wrestler of the year or outstanding wrestler. Mike Bailey, never heard of him. Jon Moxley. How can Jon Moxley be the wrestler of the year, but would be the most outstanding wrestler, be number 5? Makes no sense. Number 6 is Dax Harwood of FTR. Number 7 is Gunther, who I really like. Page is 8. Takashita is 9, and Shingo Takagi. We won't spend much time on that. Michael, I don't have no words to even talk about that. Most outstanding wrestler is Will Ospreay.
I couldn't pick him out of a lineup if I had to. I mean, no offense, and he may be an outstanding young man and an outstanding wrestler. I just don't. Number one, I don't understand the differentiation, and then number 2, now if you want to vote and turn that category into the best up and comer, maybe. But I couldn't pick the guy out of a lineup.
Now, one thing I thought it would be interesting. I'm backtracking here, Adam, and just giving me a second, because I thought it would be interesting to look at we're jumping back to the wrestlers of the year, and I just want to go over this real quick with you. And you saw the winner in Jon Moxley. The very first Observer Wrestler of the Year in 1980 was Harley Race. He also won in 81 and 82. 83 was Ric Flair, 84 Ric Flair, 85 Ric Flair, 86 and 87 Ric Flair. 88 was Chosey, 88, oh no, Maeda, 89 is Flair, 90 Flair, Jumbo Saruta was 91, Ric Flair 92, 93 is Vader, 94 is Kawada, 95 was Misawa, Kabushi was 96, Mishiwawa was 97. 1998, they had some sense. The hottest pay-per-view guy in the history of the wrestling business. 98 was Stone Cold Steve Austin. 99 was another Japanese wrestler. 2000 was Triple H. 2001, Muda. 2002, Kurt Angle. 2003, Kabashi. 2004, Kabashi. 2005, Kabashi. 2006, from Mexico, Mystico or something. 2009, Jericho. 2010, Cena. 2011, Tanahashi. 2012, Tanahashi. 2013, Tanahashi. 2014, Nakamura. 2015, AJ Styles. 2016, AJ Styles. 2017, Okada. 2018, Kenny Omega. 2019, Chris Jericho. 2020, John Moxley. 2021, Kenny Omega. So it seemed like from 1980, he was going a lot of mainstream, race, Flair, and then started in 1988. He went with the New Japan guy. Then from that point forward, I mean, I couldn't hardly pronounce those names I was naming. So was it interesting to you going back to the early 80s, hearing those names, Michael?
You're right. And he started out on the rails, but I'll bet you, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm just surmising this. I bet you he took his first tour of Japan with wrestling or with wrestlers. Somebody brought him over, or either way, he traveled over to Japan and got enamored with the Japanese style. And after that, I bet he loves sushi too. But I think he probably got, enamored with it. And that's sort of what takes, and when you think about it in the early years and you're going through no Jerry Lawler, no Terry Funk, we can come up with 10 names right here. I don't even think you named The Rock. I don't think Dwayne Johnson was on that list. I don't see how how can you ignore the biggest thing in wrestling? And whether you like it or not, whether you understand it or not, the WWE is the 3,000-pound elephant in the room, period. Everybody else is orbiting around what the WWE is. Now, I will say this about AEW, and since meeting Tony, and you'll be proud of me on this, Randy, I've been watching his shows. I watched last Wednesday night. I watched Friday. The Friday night show needs work, by the way.
Oh, a lot of work. Always
yeah,
has.
it does. It does.
They've had one good one.
Really? Okay.
That was when Punk debuted.
Well, and the thing that I'm noticing is I really think Tony has a great idea of where he wants this thing to go. But I really think Tony, I would love to get on a bus or a plane with Tony for about an hour and just get his ear and not try to tell him what to do. Not at all. I mean, I'm the last person you want to take advice from on creating his business and producing his business, but just talk to him about some logical things about people, personalities, and about how people absorb things in their lives. And right now, AEW's wrestling, their programs, their turns, their any and everything you can say is they're in the diamond lane doing 110. And they need to slow it down to at least 75 for it to sink in. He's got some good wrestlers. He's got some good ideas. He's got some good people, announcers not included. But he's got some good folks that are putting that thing, they are trying to do the best they can, but they're wanting to do it 190 miles an hour instead of slowing it down and let people absorb it. Let people's emotions have time to react, because you can go too fast. A great example, compare this to radio. Young programmer in Birmingham, Alabama, second year of programming. 1 week, I looked at the Billboard Top 30 chart and compared it to the 96 ERC Top 30 chart, and there were only 5 songs on the Billboard chart that I had on our chart. But if you look down below the 30, my chart for the radio station was full of those songs. I was moving the radio station too fast. And I called Scott Shannon and I said, Scott, help me. And he said, freeze your list for 2 weeks. I did. Let the music catch up nationally, let the music catch up with me, because a lot of things that influence you in the radio business doesn't happen with just your radio station, because people get music influx from everywhere else, especially in this day and time. They can call it up on their on any of 10 music services from Spotify on down. So I just froze it, and it allowed the rest of the world, or me, to catch up with the rest of the world, actually, or the rest of the world to catch up with me. So the way I see that with Tony's wrestling, I see things that are just, gosh, will you please milk this? This is good. And he just, we're done. We're on to the other thing. And I think that's a big part of that problem on that show, Randy.
Yes, I agree. Now, what we're going to do, I'm just going to, because I can tell there's a lot of awards. There's no way to get it all in. I still want to show some videos, and we got some great stuff. We'll save 87 to next week, but I want to get 3 more videos in before the end of this show.
No more mustache shots of me, okay?
Hey, no. I told you, Adam is really cranky today. He really is. He didn't come in the pre-show meeting. He'd say, and I kept talking to him. He wouldn't say a word to me back. Now you ask him not to put no more about that shot. I asked him to put, there he did it. See, look at that shit. Anyway, I asked him, I said, put the picture up. I said, find a picture of me in a beard. And you know, Adam, he can find anything. But he's just not doing it because I asked him to do it. That's exactly.
Adam, I love you, brother. I
was born at night, but not last night, people. At all. I know when somebody is freaking grumpy. And I can forget.
I'm not grumpy.
Hey, we're going to do Tag Team of the Year real quick, and we'll put something on the screen right now. And we're going to do this a little different. We're going to do 2 more. We're going to do Tag Team of the Year. Then we'll do the Promotion of the Year. But as far as Tag Team of the Year, I want to read these winners. 1980, the Fabulous Freebirds. 1981, Terry Gordy and Jimmy Snuka. I don't remember that. 1982, Stan Hansen and Ole Anderson, a great team. 1983, Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood, a great team. 84, the Road Warriors, a great team. 85, the British Bulldogs, a great team. 86, Condrey and Eaton, Midnight Express. 87, Midnight Express. 88, the Midnight Express. 89, the Midnight Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. 1990, Rick and Scott Steiner. 91, I can't pronounce these people's names. 92, the Miracle Violence Combination, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Gordy, a great team. 1993, a great team, the Hollywood Blondes, Brian Pillman and Steve Austin. 94 was the Love Machine and Art. 95 was the Japanese team. 96, Japanese. I just can't pronounce these names, people. 97, 98, 99, all Japanese teams. Again, I can't pronounce the name. It's not like I'm being disrespectful. 2000 was Edge and Christian. 2001, a Japanese team. 2002, Eddie and Chavo Guerrero. 2003, and 3, a Japanese team. 04, 05, same thing. 2006 was Homicide and Hernandez. 2007, the Briscoes. 2008, The Miz and John Morrison. 2009, Eddie Edwards and David Richards. 2010, Chris Hero. Then you go on and on. In 2013, it was The Shield, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 are the Young Bucks. 19 was Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix. 2020 was the Young Bucks. 2021 was the Young Bucks as well. Here is the list for 2022, and I'll just give you. I'll start with 5. AEW's Acclaim. Number 4, WWE's The Usos. Number 3 was the Young Bucks. Number 2, Mark and Jay Briscoe. Number 1, FTR. Was it not amazing to you, Michael, when I gave you a list that we started getting into names that I couldn't say, but the real famous teams that we were saying in the big run from the Midnight Express and all those tag teams, the Steiners and the Road Warriors and everybody that we mentioned? Was that not amazing? And see how down tag team wrestling is now and how much not a factor it is than it used to be?
I agree with you, Randy, but I think part of that is due to the fact that when MMA came around, everything was one-on. There is no tag team or MMA. It's one-on-one. It's mano on mano, and I think that has changed the complexion of the wrestling world as well. In any of the promotions, that they have become more centered on the one-on-one action, and I think part of that is brought on by MMA and what MMA is all about. That being said, of that list you just gave, there's only 2 teams, in my opinion, and I've been around the business now, well, since a kid, and you gave my age earlier, which is, you missed it by a long shot, son. But I've had a good 55 years of watching professional wrestling and being a part of it. And I will say without qualification here that there's probably 2, maybe 3 of those tag teams that could hand a candle to the Midnight Express, that could hand a candle to about 10 other of those teams you just mentioned. And the Young Bucks ain't one of them. And the Usos, I think, probably, in my opinion, epitomized what tag team wrestling was back in the day better than anybody else. I think the last team that you mentioned,
FTR. That's who he
FTR.
said they voted as the tag team of the year. They were the revival in the WWE.
Right. And they're good. Don't get me wrong. But again, are they going to stay in the ring with Jimmy Cornette and the Midnight Express? I mean, are they going to stay in the ring with the fabulous Freebirds? Are they going to be able to pull off a match with the Road Warriors? I don't think so. And so you're right. Tag team wrestling is down. But again, I think it's more of the style of the time versus the fact that something has gone wrong in wrestling with tag team action.
Yeah, it's just, and I love tag team matches. I've always loved tag team matches. They are great. So we're going to do promotion.
Before you do, Randy, let me add something. You just made a great point and triggered something in my head. Okay. Do you realize that we talk about Memphis Wrestling and we talk about the wrestling in Tennessee and the Nick Goulas, Roy Welch territory, and then the Nick Goulas territory and the Jerry Lawler or the Jerry Jarrett territory? Do you realize that the west side of the territory, the Jerry Jarrett side of the territory, has always been dominated by singles competition? You look at Billy Wicks, you look at Sputnik Monroe, you look at Jerry Jarrett, or Jerry Lawler, rather. That's always been a singles, a star-oriented, a star, top guy-oriented side of the territory. But Nick Goulas' territory was always a big tag team territory, Don and Al Green, the Von Brauners, the Maddocks, the Infernos, down the line, Don and Luke Fields, Lynn Rossi and Tex Riley. It was always a big tag team area. So that side of the territory was tag team. The Memphis side of the territory was big on singles wrestling.
Yeah, you're actually absolutely right. Now, Memphis had the Von Brauners, and Memphis had Don and Al Green, and a lot of those teams, and they had Barnes and Dundee and Lawler and White, all that, except for, I'm trying to even think, there was normally a single main event, and the tag team. Even though the very first main event at the Mid-South Coliseum was the Von Brauners against Tojo and Jerry Jarrett. That was the very first main event. But you're totally right what you're going to say. We're going to talk real quick, and then we're going to get into watching some real good video. We want to see the cat. We want to see Joshua today, but we want to read you, and I'll start with 10. This is an amazing list. And then I'm going to go back to tag team in a minute as we put a graphic up. Listen to what I'm telling you, Michael, because so many of these I've never heard of. Number 10, DDT. Number 9, Game Changer Wrestling. Number 8, Pro Wrestling Noah. Number 7, Dragon Gate. Number 6, Impact Wrestling. Number 5, Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC. That's not pro wrestling. Number 4 is New Japan Pro Wrestling. Number 3 is World Wrestling Entertainment. Number 2 is Stardom, and I don't know what the hell Stardom is. And number 1 is All Elite Wrestling. Disagree with that? All Elite Wrestling, AEW, is the favorite wrestling that I watch, my favorite show that I watch, and Dynamite on Wednesday, and it has been for the last 3 years. But at the same time, best promotion, the people that make the most money. How can you not say not just the biggest wrestling and most successful wrestling company in the United States, in the stinking world, So how can they have that kind of credibility, any kind of credibility at all, when the WWE is 3?
Again, Meltzer, Dave's been around a long time, and I think a lot of this has Dave Meltzer's influence written all over it. And he's been a big fan of AEW since day one. He's not a big fan of WWE, probably from old wounds from when Dave was not included in what was going on in WWE. So that's probably it. Stardom, I want to say Paniti just put up a thing that Stardom is Japanese wrestling, and we appreciate that. I didn't recognize that
I think it's Japanese women wrestling, but I'm not positive.
Gotcha.
Michael.
But I can't. Randy, you and I are on the same track on this whole thing. WWE makes the most money. They're a worldwide, who's more who would people recognize more if you took a picture and put it up on a screen? Our current Pope or Roman Reigns? I think it's a toss-up because, Roman Reigns is the face of the place, and the WWE is huge in places that we don't even go touch. Saudi Arabia, India, and I'm sure in China there's a big WWE following. I don't see how, and I don't think AEW is number 1. I don't think they're number 4 either, or number 3. I think personally, if I had a top 5 to do, I would say the WWE head and shoulders above everybody else. AEW, who's coming on. As they get older, they learn, they get better. Tony's going to get better at what he does. Number 3, and I know you disagree, and it wasn't even on the list, but I've been watching some of the NWA stuff. And one of the things I will be honest with you, I know Medusa's involved. I know Austin Idol's involved. I know Ricky Morton's involved. His son's, of course, on top. I think Trevor Murdoch's a talent. I see some stars. I don't think they've got a great show at all. And I'm not crazy about their announced team either. But I think there's some. I think MWA is showing some spark. MLW I've watched, and not bad wrestling. There's some young covers there. I'm not into the New Japan thing, but I would think the rest of the world would include New Japan, and then
I would
Impact I
say
think is pretty much where it is.
them at 3, New
Three,
Japan at
okay,
3.
and then
Impact
Impact I
doesn't
think
have
where
a
it needs
good
to be.
vehicle. Doesn't have a
Uh-huh.
good vehicle right now. Yeah, I'm just very negative over real negative on the NWA. I just at one point when Billy first took over, I thought it had tons of potential and his concept. He said that he was going to make it good old studio wrestling. And at first it looked like old Georgia Championship Wrestling. I was so excited, but it just wasn't the same and it wasn't good. I want to real quick stop right now. We're going to stop and we're going to slow down.
Okay.
Just because I have a major point to make, but to do that, I have to get you to repeat a point that you made a few minutes ago. Go back a few minutes ago as a programmer for radio and talk about when a radio programmer 100% listens to their audience. Go ahead and repeat that back to me.
Well, it's an adage. I didn't come up with this, obviously, but it's an adage. If you want to, and I'm not going to use the word, but if you want to mess up your radio station, let the audience run it. And that's basically the impact of it. Let your fans run it if you want to mess it up.
Now, I get hostile when people knock Tony Khan. I called somebody out on Twitter today. I don't know if you saw it or not, because I put the picture up of you and Tony and Dave Brown, and they were making fun of that jacket and said it looks like a little kid
I
going
loved
to.
it. I loved it.
Yeah, we're putting that up there. He said that looked like a little kid who got in his daddy's closet and sewed his oversized suit for a last second formal. And I said, hey, buddy, I said, that wasn't at a formal. That was at Jerry Jarrett's funeral. And I think it was awful nice of him going to respect Jerry and to support Jeff. Lay off. That made me hot, Michael. But here's my point. Saying that, I'm a defender of Tony Khan. But I think it's our responsibility as older wrestling guys, been around a long time, me in the promotion and booking standpoint, you have to keep your eyes open. Sometimes I think Cornette don't see any good and just all dark. I don't want to be either way. I don't want to be all dark, and I don't want to be 100% all positive where I lose my credibility. Because, and that what I'm going to say, based on the thing you said, if they let the audience program the radio station, if you let the fans book the wrestling territory, same thing. Tony, the difference in Tony Khan, name any booker, but we'll say me since I'm the only one on the show right now. I learned from Jerry Jarrett, from Bill Dundee, from Jerry Lawler, from Eddie Marlin. All these guys, Michael. Tony Khan learned from Dave Meltzer. That's the honest to God truth. Since he was a kid, that was his Bible. That was his absolute Bible. As far as I know, tell me, honestly, I know Jim Ross has booked house shows. In the WWF, it's different. The booker basically books the house show things, and he would, whatever hot on TV. So he's done that. But can you think of one person, I mean, at any level, and I might be forgetting somebody, can you name one person at AEW that's ever booked anything?
I don't think so. Now, I think there's some wise men, if you would.
Yeah, Arn Anderson and all kinds.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that, but I mean the absolute booker's job. What Tony is doing who else in that company that he has had experience? I think Chris Jericho could do it good. I think Daniel Bryan probably could. I think there's other. I always thought that Cody should have been the first booker of that company. I really do.
I
But
was I thought he was. I was surprised. I was going to say wasn't Cody Rhodes when it all started, but I guess he wasn't.
well, no, I think after 3 weeks, Tony hadn't even looked at a format before. Tony had no experience, but I think his dream was to be a booker. I told you years ago, he called me and asked me for booking advice. And, you know, it's a wonder I didn't cuss him, but I was nice and gave him the pros and cons.
That could have been one of the best calls he ever made, in my opinion. In fact, I think he owes you another call to pay you whatever it is to come down there and book. Randy, you could take that talent from everything I know about Power Pro, and I've known you for all these years, and I'm not blowing smoke up your backside. I'm telling you the honest to God's truth. Randy Hales could take the roster at AEW, form it and fashion it like Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler and Eddie Marlin taught you to do, and I guarantee you those ratings on that show would double in 30 days.
I think I'll be out of my league because you remember who would I be working for? Tony Khan, right?
Right.
What kind of wrestling does he like?
Well, it's
There you
probably the new era style, but I think he's a sensible enough man. In just the conversation that Dave and I had him for 15 or 20 minutes 2 weeks ago, I got a real sense about him. I felt good about meeting the guy because
I'm glad you did. I love him. I
thought he was a goof until I talked to him. And as soon as I got to where his history, where I got the inside of where his head is about the man, here's part of the problem. Here's the other part of the problem. I told you the part of the problem is running off the rails at 190 miles an hour, right? Here's the other problem. The other problem is he's listening to too many people. He's got too many people in his ear. If he had one person that he knew and could trust and would be the person that could take that company to big heights, Randy Hales is that guy. Because Randy Hales, I've seen you book. I've heard you book. I've been in there when you've gone over formats. Randy, you're too daggum good at booking.
Oh, I know I was good. I was great, but that was a long time ago when a different time. Hey, do you know who, Michael, listen to me. Do you know who has Tony ear big time in that company? Big time.
Chris Jericho.
He flew to Hendersonville with him.
Really?
Tony Schiavone. He really listens to Tony. Listens to Tony. Tony had that WCW run, and Tony Khan was a big thing. But where is Tony Schiavone ever booked? You know, certainly he was around Dusty, but being around somebody not in like a mentor type of thing that I was fortunate enough to do. We're going to real quick.
I'm surprised you said that. I didn't read that at all, but you're probably right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's true. That's absolutely true. By the way, Kevin Kelly, let's just skip through, and I want to get the video real quick. People watch this show, loves this kind of BS, but they love Memphis Wrestling stuff. I got classic videos. Here's the thing, and I forgot where the hell I was going. Oh, I know where I was going with this. Announcer of the year, number one was Kevin Kelly, that used to be in the WWE. I always thought he was horrible. He is at New Japan World now. And number two is Excalibur. The last 2 years, he was the announcer of the year. And I think he's horrible. And when they gave the list of the worst announcers, Corey Graves was number one. Michael Coe was like number 4 worst. Corey was number 1 worst. And number 3 worst was Jim Ross. And for some reason, and it could be health related from JR, because he had some issues. So I'm not going to knock Tony for that decision because it might be a have-to situation. JR's on the B show, and it's on Friday night. It's pre-taped. But it might be health reasons. But still, the fact that your thoughts on the announcers, Kevin Kelly and I already Excalibur, and don't I got to get to wrestling, and I'm getting mad just thinking about this thing. But
We got time. We're good. We're cool.
Quick thoughts.
I think Excalibur is the drizzling shits. I'm
Yes.
sorry. That's the worst part of the
Yes.
program. The worst part but Tony wants to really help himself get rid of the guy. I really think where's Ian Riccaboni in that list? Is he on that list? I think he's a pretty good announcer.
You just talk some more and I'll find it, okay, Adam?
Well, Ian Riccaboni, I think, is a good announcer. I really enjoy I really enjoy him. Kevin Kelly, to me, is my mama at times when I'd go to school when I was a little kid. I'd get up in the morning, she'd make pancakes, she'd make bacon and eggs, she'd make oatmeal. But every now and then she made her own little concoction called milk toast. And milk toast is exactly like it sounds what it is. It's milk poured over toast. And it's not good, but it ain't bad. It's just there. And to me, that's what Kevin Kelly is. Kevin Kelly is just there. But there's some young talent that I think is on the up and come in the announcer business. One of the problems I have with the announcers in professional wrestlers is wrestling is the same problem I have with announcers on football. They're not calling the action anymore. They are injecting their opinion and their thoughts and their guesses and their bull into the product. And the product needs to become back to being a sacred product. You sell the product. Whether I was good, people liked me, people didn't like me, that's fine. But I will tell you that I never inserted my opinion into the action I was calling. If somebody missed a move, I ignored it. If somebody continually missed a move, I brought it up or mentioned it. But I was not there to be negative. I was not there to second guess. I was not there to say on 3rd and 3, run the ball. I was there to call what I see. Do you know, and I've always said this, I've always done this, and this is something Ray Scott, the great Green Bay Packer announcer, helped me develop. I don't go to football practices. Whether I'm calling a high school game, a college game, indoor football, I don't go to practice. Do I not like football? I love football, but I don't go to practice. And you know why I don't go to practice? Because when that football team takes that field on a Friday night or on a Saturday afternoon, or when they hitting that arena, I don't want to know what I've seen in practice. I want to call it as I see it happening because that's what the audience is seeing for the first time. The audience ain't at practice. They're not out on the field. They're not, they're not watching the video from overhead and from the end zone and from two sidelines or none of that. All they're seeing is the finished product, game time. As an announcer, my job is to call the action, game time, as it happened. I don't want to be jaded. I don't want to be shaded. I don't want to be pro one team and anti the other. None of that. My deal is to call what I see, to explain in pure, simple words what I am seeing. And announcers across the board. I watched an NBA game the other night with the Phoenix Suns. And Al McCoy, who's a good friend of mine, is still doing the game, and he's still great. But then the next night, I watched a game from the Utah Jazz, and I don't know where they got that guy. So, from an announcer standpoint, am I jaded? Am I biased? Absolutely, because I think an announcer is there to put the product over and to call what he sees or she sees. And that ain't happening across sports, and it certainly ain't happening in professional wrestling, and it certainly ain't happening with Excalibur. And I'll be honest, I don't know who this new English guy they got on Monday Night Raw is, but he makes the guy that has been voted the worst announcer, he makes him look good because that guy doesn't have a clue.
Yeah, I think Corey Graves covers for the thing. Let me read this list real quick. Number 1 was Kevin Kelly. Number 2 was Excalibur, whatever the hell his name is. Your guy, Ian, was number 3. Taz was 4. Pat McAfee was 5. Chris Charlton, I don't know who the hell that is, was 6. Tony Schiavone was 7. Michael Coe was 8. Jay Church was 9, and Stuart Fulton was 10. Who the hell are these people?
I'm sure our listeners will, or our viewers will tell us. But you mentioned, Michael Cole. I think, like him or not, I think he's gotten better as time has gone on. I think he's gotten better.
Vince in his ear. It wasn't his fault.
Right. I agree.
They leave him alone now, and he's great. I would say probably he might, because he's on the top, the biggest company there is. He's good at selling emotion. He's done a great job selling this bloodline feud.
Yes, he has.
Great job. He'd be my announcer of the year. And I think it's unfair. I think there needs to be a color guy award and a play-by-play guy. I really do.
I really do. So one of our listeners said Taz is pretty good. I think Taz is very, very verbose on the mic, and I agree with that. The guy that used to do ECW back in the day,
Joey Styles.
I didn't think he was very good at all back in the day. But when I go back and watch some of those old tapes, he was tongue in cheek about everything.
Yeah.
And he was over the top about when they went over the top, he went over the top. So for what that product was, looking back on it, I think Joey Styles was pretty good.
Yes. And he was being produced by Paul Lee. What a show. And I thought it was interesting. We don't talk a lot of modern wrestling. We'll get into classic stuff from 1986 just a second, because, man, I got something to show you. But, Michael, did you enjoy talking about the Wrestling Observer Awards and talking more than normal about modern wrestling?
I did. And I think a good dose of that every now and then helps refresh our show, because really, when you look at it, we're going back and looking at things that have already happened and either telling backstories on that or explaining what was going on back then or giving our take on it as we see it in today's society. I came up with something the other day. I was talking to somebody about, and they were an old-time wrestling fan. In fact, the guy was 78 years old. He grew up in this area, and he asked me about what I thought about wrestling today. And I said, wrestling came from, in the history of professional wrestling, came from the sideshows at carnivals, right? That's how kayfabe, everything developed at sideshows at carnivals. It has gone from that to a mainstream, with WWE taking it to the pinnacle with the superstar era and the attitude era and all that good stuff, the movie star era, as I call it now. And now AEW is taking it back to the carnivals, but it's not going back to the sideshow. It's the trapeze act.
Right.
It's gone back to the circus. It's in the big top, but it's the trapeze.
Very, very interesting. This is going to be a example. Somebody asked, what's the top 5 announcers from the 80s? I don't think that I'm going to answer that. Would you like to answer that question? Certainly, my number one's no secret. It's Lance Russell.
Lance Russell and Dave Brown, number one, head and shoulders above everybody else. And now I'm not being a homer. This is just the fact. Gordon Solie. I'm sorry. Gordon Solie was the face of wrestling announcers for many, many years. The guy I always enjoyed watching was the guy that was over in the Carolinas, Bob Caudle.
I love Bob. Yeah.
I thought Bob Caudle did a great job. Larry Matznick in St. Louis. God love him. Larry knew the business inside and out. He and Sam Munchnick were brothers of a different mother. I thought Larry did a fabulous, fabulous job. And after that, I got to tell you that Vince McMahon did not do a bad job when he was doing the wrestling commentating for the WWF.
He was good. That's a good top 5. I'm going to give you example of what drew money in the territories days. And I want to really analyze that. There's a 2-part video. The first one, and I want to look at my notes here, and I can tell you here. The first one is lengthy. The second one is not. This is idea of this angle a lot to do with Randy West. Randy West had a lot to do with coming up creatively with this deal. This was in 1986. I'll just say it's a two-parter, most heated angle in Memphis Wrestling history, what it says on YouTube, and we'll watch that. Part 1 right now.
Everybody say we Sneaky Jeff. Jarrett said that we Coward Jeff. I tell you what, we not Coward or Sneaky Jeff. We are Imperial Supreme Japanese. We tell you now, I'm going to do now.
Oh,
if
no.
Jeff Jarrett comes in the TV today, I'm going to beat him up, and I'm going to paint his back yellow streak, and I'm going to beat his back with his belt like a dog. And
You don't need that paint in there. Why don't you just get it out of here?
Jeff Jarrett bring his retarded son, I tell you what, I'm going to beat him up with his bull whip and whack him in his back, and I'm going to paint this yellow behind his back.
Yeah,
and then he is a yellow because he look like a dog anyway. He look like the yellow dog.
Yeah, you just keep making comments about Jerry Jarrett.
But now, my two Imperial wrestlers going in there, we're going to beat them like a dog, and we're going to paint this yellow streak behind their back. It's my show. Go.
Why don't you guys just leave the paint? Tojo, take the paint out of here. Now, you don't need that paint in here. Boy, I'll tell you what, he's already cost Tracy Smothers his Mid-America title today. Brings in a bucket of paint in the belt. Okay, Davey, we're big foot to the side of Jim Jameson, and they pound down on him. Jeff Jarrett, Pat Tanaka out here. Oh, no! Jeff! Oh, why? Pardon me for laughing. I gotta tell you.
Stop it.
Yeah, they're stopping them. Uh-oh.
Referee has just stopped the match.
Okay, come on. Pat Tanaka hit on the head with that paint can, and now he is just killed. Yamamoto with the yellow paint all over him, where Jeff Jarrett and Tanaka sneaked up behind him. Tojo holding Jeff and beat him. Tojo! Tanaka is unconscious, and Goto's still kicking on him. As Yamamoto alternately hitting him with that. Come on, Tojo! Look at it, Jerry. Calhoun, I don't blame him. He's steering clear of these crazy guys. Sato holding Jeff, and Tojo just continues to batter on him. Hits him with a kendo stick. And Yamamoto just continues to batter away, and Goto come on, can't we get some help out here? This is Cap, Randy.
Waller's not in the studio. Waller is left.
Where? Jerry's gone.
There's nobody there.
How about Tracy? Anybody? Can we get... Let's get some help. Eddie. Here comes Eddie Marlin. Uh-oh. Goto drops him down there. Tojo! Will you get away from there and get out of here and take that shot?
Coward. The top, you see what I mean?
You beat him out with a stick in there, and you hit him with a belt, left him.
Now I'm going to beat his father. You understand?
Yeah,
where is Jerry Jarrett? Where is the coward Jerry Jarrett?
Yeah, he doesn't happen to be here today, and I'll tell you, you wouldn't be doing. Will you guys quit that? Come on. Sato, Goto, leave him out. Get out of here. Boy, I'm telling you. You better get him back. They beat on him terrible. Oh, man. God, watch his back, Eddie. Watch his back.
This is uncalled for.
Well, you're right, Eddie.
Uncalled for. He's calling everybody dirty cowards. He's got two choices. He can come out here right now and fight me.
Come on now, Eddie. Eddie.
Get him out here.
No.
Get him out here and twin.
That's not the way to handle it, Eddie. Eddie's talking about firing Tojo if he doesn't come out, but I don't think that's the way to handle it. You need to help Jeff out of here. Eddie Marlin saying get Tojo out here. If he's not out here by the count of 10, he's fired. We need to help Jeff out of here. Come on, Eddie. Get him another time. Well, Yamamoto's not out here, Eddie. You can get him
fired, but that's not going to save him from getting his beating. He's going to get his beating right
No,
here.
come on, Eddie.
Yes,
Come.
he is.
No. Eddie! I'll tell you, what a mess this is. Well, thanks to Yamamoto and all of them, we come up here, we got the paint in here. They were going to paint somebody on the back. They ended up getting it dumped over Tojo, which we don't approve of in here. All right, Tojo. We've had enough.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Hey, come on,
Where is
Tojo.
it? Where's the
Now
fuck?
listen.
Where's the fuck?
Let go of me now. I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you one thing. You're just about to get yourself sued. Wait till Eddie Martin runs out of there. Then you come back in. He's not looking for you. You're going to get yours. Oh, no. As Eddie comes through the ropes, Tojo hits him with salt right in the eye. Hey, what are you guys? You don't need a bet. Keep these guys out of here. At least that every one-on-one. Oh, man. Tojo is busting Eddie wide open. We need some help. This thing is just totally out of control. And Lawler's not back there? Get him out of here! Get him out of here! Come on, Jerry. They'll come over and beat him on the head for pulling that. Jumping up there. I'm telling you what, Tojo. You are nothing but trash. Yeah, you're just trash. You're a disgrace to your own people. Come up there and do that. You never did a decent one-on-one thing. I'm embarrassed they even ever thought that you were a friend. Just get out of here.
Come on, you want to come on?
Can we get some help and get this thing straightened out and get these guys out of here? I'm going to tell you, Tojo. Yeah, I see what you did. You see how you did it, too. You're a disgrace to your people. Banzai. Just get out of here. I just got to tell you. See if they can help. Hey, come on, Tojo. I told you to get on out of here. Get on out. I'm going to tell you one thing. You can beat me up. I'll sue you. I'll get you in criminal court. They'll have you. Now, you get out of here, and I'm telling you what, don't put your hands on me. You better.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break.
Okay.
We'll be back in just a moment.
There might be a debate from other people about the greatest wrestling announcer at all time, and that's anybody's right to have a favorite of anything, a favorite NFL player, favorite wrestler, favorite anything. But I'm telling you, as far as a lead host of a wrestling program responsible for getting the angles, the feuds, the stories over. I'm telling you right now, people, Lance Russell was the best to ever do it. The best to ever do it. Watching that gave me chills. Absolutely. You're a disgrace to your people. I hate that you're ever a friend. I can't tell you how great he was, Lance was. I can't tell you how great Eddie Marlin was. The older, elderly grandfather type of role that was out there, soft spoken, but when you get him hot, he'll kill you. Everybody knows people like that. Those old grandpas are badasses. And believe me, Eddie Marlin was. Absolutely. He looked the part. Tojo as the sneaky heel was absolute great. I like the way Jeff was tied up on those ropes, and he did it naturally. Now, I remember at the time, somebody in the dressing room says he's putting his knees up or his legs up so he won't get hit in the chest. Well, if it was a shoot, isn't that what you would do? That would be what you would do. That's natural. Deadgum thing. Everything about that was perfect. Randy West remembers and has told me he laid it out to Jerry Jarrett. Jerry wasn't at TV. Lawler and I handled kind of putting that together. Lawler more than me, but Jerry really sent down notes, and it was, obviously Randy West suggested that. It was just from everybody. We have part 2 in a minute, but just part 1, we want Michael St. John to have a few words to say about what we just saw.
You know, Randy, of all the clips we've ever played on this show, I really got involved in that. I got excited about it. Love the announcing. Absolutely agreed with everybody. Lance Russell, the greatest at telling the story and being part of the story, because Lance was part of that story. And that was awesome, without a doubt. But Tojo Yamamoto, as a heel, wrote the textbook. I mean, sneaky Japanese. He's saying all the right things. He's hitting all the hot buttons. He comes out with the yellow paint. The tables get turned on him. He gets even hotter. He goes crazy. Eddie Marlin wants him out there. He doesn't show up. Eddie Marlin leaves the ring. Tojo shows up. I mean, that's a play. That's not only a wrestling match. That's a play. That's a Broadway play performed in a squared circle in the ring. And there's very few segments we've ever shown on this show, in my opinion, that was as good as that.
Let's see part 2, because I don't know how they can top it. They can't. I mean, it's absolutely impossible, I think, to top that. The last video of the day, Talking Memphis Wrestling, is the most heated angle in Memphis Wrestling history, part 2. Let's watch.
Jim out of there. I tell you one thing, it's come down to a situation where it looks like that. I was going to tell Tojo I'm going to have a ball bat sitting underneath that desk. You can put up a lot of things in there, and I don't have any question in my mind that Tojo Yamamoto could kill me. But I'll tell you one doggone thing, we're not going to take it lightly, and I just want you to know that, Tojo. Come out here right now, because I got a message from you. I just got off the phone with Jerry Jarrett explaining exactly what happened on it down there. Now, don't come out here swinging that. All right, you may get in a lick it. Yeah. No, I don't want to fight you, but I'll tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to push me around in that. I may only get one lick, but I'll hit you right in the face with this.
It's not worth to fight an old man, old pro like you.
Yeah, all right. Well, just remember that, because I'll tell you, if I don't get one lick, it'll be a good one right in the back. I don't want to fight you, Tojo. I'll tell you what you are, though. I said it before. You're trash. You're absolutely a disgrace to your people. You do sneaky things. I talked to Jerry Jarrett. You're screaming, get me Jerry Jarrett. I told him what you did to Eddie Marlin, what you did to his son, Jeff Jarrett, out there. He said 3 words, sign the match. He's not afraid of you. One eye or any of that.
Better, I'm going to beat that dirty dog. Banda!
All right. Yeah, you beat him. This is one time. I don't pull for too many, Raul. I do pull for some, but I don't just openly root for somebody to get hurt. But I'll tell you one thing, Dave, this is a situation where I'm going to be sitting, waiting, watching for Jerry Jarrett. There's a time when you got to do things, and Jerry Jarrett feels the same way. He's got one eye that's bad. He's got the other eye that's partially been histoplasmosis. But he is a man, and he's not going to put up with that kind of stuff happening out there, and he will meet Yamamoto in the ring. He'd rather meet him in the parking lot if he was right out here. But the match, he said, and I applaud him for it, sign the match. There's a time you got to do things. The match is signed. We'll take time out, be back in a moment. We got more of it. Well, the folks will be interested in this was kind of as a result of a situation that occurred. It took place in the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. We've got some highlights from a Jerry Jarrett, Tojo Yamamoto match. I want you to look at this. Nice hip toss. Remember, these two guys were once partners, and in addition to that, were long-time respected Southern Tag Team champions. Jerry Jarrett starts right out working on the arm. Boy, it sounded to me like his arm popped.
That's exactly what Jerry said he was going to do. He's going to break his arm.
Well, you know, I got no love for Tojo, but I'll tell you, when he put that Japanese bar on it, he's doing it again, Eddie. You know, there's a point of where it goes beyond wrestling in there.
Tojo should have thought about that in the weeks behind us, Lance. I have no sympathy for him whatsoever.
There was a distinct pop when Jerry put that Japanese armbar. He's beating on his arm now. Yamamoto.
Leave him alone, Frank!
Screaming as Jerry still pounding on the arm. Pushes referee Frank Morrell back. And he is still going after it as he pulls Jarrett off. Uh-oh. Here comes Sato, Goto, Jeff Jarrett, Pat Tanaka. Minute and 32 seconds. I believe, I'm certain that Jerry he broke his arm, Randy.
That's what he said he's going to do.
Here comes the ninja.
He said he'd break it, and he did.
Nobody deserved it any more than Yamamoto, the ninja being manhandled by the referee. With Sato and Tanaka down there, Jeff Jarrett and Goto and Tanaka, Sato and Jeff Jarrett. Here comes the king. Jerry's still pounding on that arm of Yamamoto. Yamamoto is screaming in the center of the ring. Yeah, just a comment or two. That was Eddie Marlin I was talking to that came there to see it. And I want to say this right now. This is a part of the championship wrestling program we're not particularly fond of, but it is imperative, I feel, that we get both sides in any kind of a situation. That is why, even after what he did last week, we're going to permit Tojo Yamamoto an opportunity to have his say. Now, I do want to say this. I have made it clear to Tojo that I am full, and this is no kidding with Tojo Yamamoto, and he knows I mean what I said. I will sue you if you lay your hands on me and start beating on me, Tojo. Now, what I'm going to do is tell you that you've got a minute and a half to say what you want to say, and I'll stand here and hold the microphone.
You give me a microphone. Only what will you do 1 minute? Jerry Jarrett, you tried to break my arm last night. You put your best hold last night, but you never broke my arm. I was too strong. I went to doctor. Doctor said my arm only fractured. He want to put it in cast. I don't like it because I am too strong. Jerry Jarrett, this is not the end now. This is just the starting of the war. I tell you, you're going to pay everything for this. Oh, go to the よくも俺のカードの腕を打ってるな、これやろ。実際のてめえ、夜を打ってるな、これやろ。テリー、お前の息子のデータ、腕をてめえ、これやろ、逆に打ってるからな、これやろ。ヒロコの腕をこれやろ。俺とこじゃない、これやろ、肩上げたるってみや、これやろ。俺は怒ってた、これやろ。バカ野郎、腕でも走ってる、これやろ。殺したる、これやろ。もっとスパイクが顔にしたる、これやろ。おい、メンターがてめえ、失礼だろ、これやろ。覚えてくれてね、これやろ。よくあって俺の風の腕を折ってくれた、これやろ。覚えてくれ、これやろ。見ろ、この痛い血の腕を、これやろ。ぜひ、これやろ。覚えてくれてね、これやろ。何が起きた、これやろ。殺したる、これやろ。ほら。
For any of you who understand Japanese, I certainly hope that that was permissible for broadcast because he did it. Okay.
Wow.
That is heat. That is heat. And that was fantastic. Michael, final words. Sum up the show and say your goodbyes. We're going to go overtime a couple of minutes, but final words.
Personal issues sell. Personal issues draw money. Perfect example. Great show, Randy. Great show, buddy.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. That just gave me chills. And it was funny that I said when we showed part one of that, I said, there's no way they can top that. And what did they do? They topped it because they went back, and that deal with Lance and the hammer, and again, sticking on the announcer, they topped it. And that added another chapter to that story they were telling, that particular TV. And remember, that story started in the late 1960s. As Tojo Yamamoto, this was 1986. When does that happen? They talk about no long-term stories. Tojo Yamamoto and Jerry Jarrett were partners. Tojo was a mentor. Tojo turned on Jerry's son. Jerry Jarrett fighting for his son. It was an angle 25, 30 years in the making.
Well, I made that little circle because in life, the world is round for a reason. It all comes back around. Anything in life, fashion, you name it, wrestling, baseball. Baseball's now got a shot clock. I mean, all comes around. Yes, baseball has a 25-second clock for between pitches. It started in spring training. It all comes around. The earth, God made the earth round for a reason. And I really believe this in life. I believe this in spirit. I believe this in intelligence. It all comes around. Here's a perfect example. Like you said, 25 years in the making. Something that had then been done before. They bring it back later. It's fresh and new. Hey, cars. Look at cars. The way cars are designed. It all comes around. Great show tonight, Randy. I really enjoyed this.
Jeff Rockwheeler's asked several times, and I've answered it several times. I guess he didn't hear me. Tojo helped train Jeff. Jerry was involved, but the main guy that worked with Jeff a lot was Tony Falk. Tony Falk did a lot there. Michael, I love you, man. Hopefully you're back here with us next Tuesday.
Look forward to it, Randy. God bless you and thank you. And hope all is well with you. Our prayers are with you and all the folks that are part of this show. God bless you and thank you for joining us so much.
Thank you, Michael. Did a great job today. Michael St. John, everybody. This is the time for the plugs for this part of the show. And I usually plug tomorrow at Front Row with Bud Row. However, I will not be plugging that because there will not be a Front Row with Bud Row because it's get Michael St. John back in here. I'm not going to let him out of here right now because I wanted to tell Michael that coming up this, and let's don't spend a lot of time on this.
Okay.
But coming up, and that's why there's no Front Row with Bud Row tomorrow, and that's why I hosted the show Monday for him, as Bud wasn't there. It's state championship basketball time in the state of Arkansas. My nephew, Cal, is in Harrison, Arkansas, not in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, playing Harrison tomorrow, and the state championship game. Jonesboro High School that's won, I don't know how many titles. They're in Rogers, Arkansas. Just so exciting. So spend 20 seconds, 30 seconds telling the folks, if you have any, I know you do football, any basketball going on your radio station.
Well, actually, tomorrow is amazing you bring that up because it's championship week here in Alabama. The Arabian Night girls, the girl high school team, they've lost double-digit losses this year, and they made it to the semifinals, which is tomorrow in Birmingham at the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center. We'll have it live at 6 o'clock tomorrow night on WRAB 107 FM. You can stream it on WRABradio.com. But what's sort of close to my heart about this is one of my crew for Arab high school football is Ben Elrod, and his daughter Bennett is she's the Eddie Johnson of that football or that basketball team. She can hit long range from halfway across the gym, and she's I'm really looking forward. We're playing a team out of Montgomery that I've never heard of before, Brubaker Tech. They are a tech school with some very large people on the basketball court, and our crew is a bunch of little small girls that can shoot the lights out of things and play defense. So that's what's happening here. But best of luck to your nephew and best of luck to those teams. And does Coach have any? Is any of his team are they involved at all, or is it primarily
the girls team lost today? They did make it to the state. They did lose, but he was at the game. That's why he couldn't be on the show. Thank you, Michael.
God bless you, Randy. God bless everybody. See you next week.
All right. Good night. Very good. I want to thank Mr. Johnson from Australia. Does just a fantastic job, and he found the show last week. Mr. Johnson, I hope you continue to watch this on every Monday and Tuesday. I want everybody to know the archives of all these shows will be up on youtube.com at Randy Hills. And if everybody would subscribe to my YouTube channel, and it'll be all up there as well. So if you hadn't followed me on Facebook or Twitter or at Randy Hills on YouTube or the Randy Hills channel on Twitch, I would appreciate it if you would do that. Next Monday is Power Pro Wrestling, the Power Hour, show number 55. Next Tuesday, we're back. We may have the boys all back together again. Don't know. It's a busy time this time of year. I want to thank Adam Dunn for producing. It was so much enjoyable, so much better. And I want to thank every single one of you, Al, and I'll leave somebody up, and Tanner and Mr. Johnson and my buddy Randy West and Jeff Wheeler, and I can go on and on and on. Try to keep it within 2 hours. It's just not possible today, but we had a great show. Hope you enjoyed it. Until then, for Michael St. John and Adam Dunn, I'm Randy Hills. Good night, everybody.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hills and special guests.